Hello, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group, I, Sakshi, welcome you to our webinar on Solar Market Outlook India. As we are aware that India has doubled on its renewable energy commitments in the long-term low carbon development strategy at COP27 summit. As anticipated, utility scale projects and floating solar will garner more attention as there are large number of pending projects in 2023. Also considering how the investment will function following the JNSM and 2030 targets, we can conclude that 2023 will be an excellent year for solar. Now, without any further ado, we would like to invite Mr. Shekhar Dutt, who's the Director General of Solar Power Developers Association, for the opening remarks to set the tone of the panel. Welcome to screen, sir. Over to you, Mr. Dutt. I believe you're on mute. Yes.
Okay. Mic and video was disabled for some time for some reason. Anyway, good morning, everybody, and a very happy new year. And it is necessary also to endorse what Sakshi has said that it will be a very important year for solar, in particular, RE in general, and India's energy availability and utilization in particular. And absolutely, I agree with that kind of an approach because energy is food for development. And the greater the development, the more the energy we should be able to consume. Our energy consumption per capita is very low. It is still not more than one third of the international average or world average. So we are way behind the world as far as energy consumption is concerned. And also the demand doesn't increase very much. And Discom after Discom keep on saying that we don't have any problem of energy shortage. So therefore, they for a good part of last year we were fighting with the Discoms to pay the developers whatever energy they have consumed, and well, we have succeeded, but it has been at a cost. And also, we are trying our best to restore the confidence of the financial institutions which have been lending to the developers for production of energy and giving it to the discoms and then not getting the money. So now I think uh, the money backlog has become a little more comfortable. Maybe we like to get information from anybody. If they don't have uh, enough repayment or payment paid by the discoms, then we like to take it up with the state government. Now, having said that, yesterday the honorable minister announced uh, the green energy, national green energy hydrogen mission. The cabinet had approved it day before yesterday, and this is a substantial increase in our reach and also ability for production of renewable energy and use of renewable energy. We might have a big export demand, which will be able to be met with this kind of a thing because it will be a green energy. So the renewable energy would be the source by which the National Hydrogen Mission will go on, and the bottlenecks, what the minister yesterday in his meeting assessed from all of us, that there are substantial bottlenecks and they are at it. The ministry, both power as well as MNRE and the other concerned ministries will be at it, and the uh, the ability of using green hydrogen will become something which will be a very good thing for the RE producers. Having said that, I think one of the primary areas where we'll have to focus is whether the developers' attention be primarily focused on hybrid projects as well as storage, or there shall be other requirements of focusing our attention. One of the area which we have perhaps neglected or we have been slow at it is to be at pace with the modern technology or even driving technology. We have to drive technology. India has a very, very good ability to do that, because whoever I find uh, is in the um, driver's seat in developing new techniques of new methods of increasing solar energy, increasing efficiency of the solar modules, increasing the less uh, say efficient methods, uh, decreasing them, and uh, they in America or North or West Europe are mostly Indians. So if Indians abroad are helping the companies or organizations in development of new technology, why can't Indians be employed by our key players so that we have uh, uh, a first charge of using those technologies, and we should be able to. Now, what are those areas in which we have to be extremely good? One is, of course, increasing the amount of energy used from amount of energy produced from the solar setup, and the second thing is storage. The entire storage gamut has to be increased in manner that the base load can be increased from using the RE energy, because as and when our total energy requirement within India will increase, the base load will increase, but the base load at present, and I suppose the future also, the thermal chaps are are waiting with great concern that the base load will increase so that the thermal fellows will increase the production of the base. Now, if that happens, then the RE sector doesn't benefit. The RE sector will benefit if are capable both wind and solar, and then storage, plus even biomass was discussed yesterday. So all these things will have to be used properly so that the base load from the RE itself is high, and we continuously use this. And the second thing, of course, is we tempt the manufacturing industries to have larger numbers of shifts, so that at the shift where it is very small amount of energy which is used, that is primarily from 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning, uh, we should be able to have an extra shift of manufacturing. Three shifts manufacturing is a goal which India must be able to achieve, so that we can use all our capacities of manufacturing. We produce not only for India, but we produce for the world. Now, will higher uh, demand require uh, changes in our system of ISTS? And I think as and when higher demand achieves within the country, we should be able to remodel our production at different places and then supply at different places. So this has to be continuously done, and the grid has to be very, very well managed. I, in fact, find that the grid is managed, and we don't have large, say, problems in grid management in India, which is a very, very good thing. Our grid is pretty stable, and we haven't had a big grid outage. Now, uh, we also require a an ability to transport once the green hydrogen mission comes into being. We are looking forward to a major export possibility, because primarily the green hydrogen, uh, I mean, I don't know, but a good amount of it would be used by the foreign countries, especially Europe. And we have to also then be able to use green hydrogen for our use, and therefore we have to have that kind of an ability at certain packets. This will also mean that our coastal areas would require to be developed for production, storage, as well as export. So that will also be uh, a good uh, sort of generation of abilities within our setup. I I would also suggest that we work in silos. I've seen everybody working extremely well in silos for their own setups, and are mm, extremely good at it. However, the time has come when we should be able to also combine each other's effort, and big and offer big packets. That means some of us should be able to generate, some of us should be able to store, some of us should be able to dispatch. And these are uh, combination which we'll have to do in order to become big players, extraordinarily big players, which is required. So there will be a pretty large amount of challenges, and I'm sure that that uh, the extremely good and capable people in the solar sector, in the RE sector, because in any case um, they have been at the forefront. And I have seen from the COP21 itself, India's resolve has been demonstrated, and India's ability has increased. And COP27 has really made India a significant player into the future being of the RE sector. So, with that, I would stop here and thank the organizers for thinking of holding a discussion on this subject. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dutt, for setting the tone of the panel. Uh, and now, may I have the honor of introducing the elite panel for today? The discussion will be led by Mr. Sabyasachi Majumdar from ICRA. We have today with us Mr. Venkatraman, who's the Business Development Head from INA Renewable Power, Mr. Abhilash Yadav from AMP Energy India, Mr. Pradeep Chauhan from Solar Pack, Mr. Gautam Samanta from Juniper Green Energy, and a note to all our attendees today: kindly post your queries in the Q&A box. The panelists will answer them once the discussion concludes. I request Mr. Majumdar to take over. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Sakshi. Uh, Welcome to all of you and wish you all a very happy new year. And first of all, I would like to thank the First View Group for giving me this opportunity to moderate this very, uh, excellent panel, people who is who of the industry. I'd like to begin by thanking Mr. Dutt for his excellent, context setting presentation up front. So I'd like to, begin basically by asking one, common question to all panelists. What do they see the, outlook for the medium term? That's over the next 3 years. what the kind of total, renewable energy, the capacity addition they are looking at, with a focus on the immediate execution over the next 12 months or so for the renewable energy as a whole and solar within a part of it. So just as a warm up, I'd like to ask this common question to everyone. So I could begin with asking Mr. Venkatraman his perspective on where does he see the capacity addition in the medium term and over the next 12 months. Sir, you're on mute.
Uh, Sorry, I was on mute. First of all, I would like to thank the event organizer for inviting me and let me express my views. And very nicely covered by Shekhar sir on how the things need to move in the sector. But I'll quickly jump to the question what Mr. Sabashiti has asked. See, we are very positive because India has recently achieved 444, which I called because we are fourth largest renewable energy generator in the world, fourth largest in the solar, and fourth largest in the wind. And with the COP commitments of 500 megawatt by 2030, it's a Herculean task which the government and Mr. Modi has promised. But I think so it is achievable with the kind of zeal that we are going. We are very, very positive about the sector. Yes, there are some headwinds which I'll let you know in this. But we are looking that we have estimated something. For example, this year we have reached around 62 gigawatt of solar and around 46 gigawatt of wind. So by next year, we are estimating with the tenders and the possibility of the projects coming on stage, it's around 68 gigawatt of solar and 46. A little lower because of two issues that is bothering the sector, ALLM, and the second one is the BCD implementation. Actually, this year it could have been more had the resolution been provided, but I think so the government is very, very actively helping the developers, not only the helping the developers but also the manufacturers to tide over this crisis. Otherwise this number would have been a little more than what it is now. They have also provided extensions to the projects which are under stress because of these two things. And we see a spillover from this year to the next year, and our estimation is around 68 megawatts of solar will be installed by 23, around 48 megawatt will be under implementation, and tendering will be around 11 megawatts. So 127 is around solar, and wind we estimate around 46 gigawatts to be achieved by the end of December 23, and implementation is around 19 and tenders around 11. And why I'm saying this, because we have tracked all the tenders. Plus I would like to just mention here that the industry is moving towards more of RTC kind of a power rather than just plain vanilla wind and solar, because of the intermittency which everybody knows, and because of the grid authorities facing the serious problems of deviation and scheduling. And I have attended few meetings. The situation is so grave that at some point of time it is 30+% of variation in terms of energy, and we cannot go ahead with this and jeopardizing the grid safety. So so everything will align to the market requirement and the rig requirement. Going forward, it will be more of RTC, peak power, and load following demands of the some states. So I've jotted down around 18,700 megawatt of tenders to come up in next 1 year, which will include RTC with RE power 90. You can have it with a combination of wind, solar, or a pumped hydro. RE with a hydro capacity, that is wind, solar, and hydro, which is around 1500. RE with the thermal capacity, that is known as bundling with thermal, around 2500 megawatt. And Punjab and Delhi is already said 6,000 megawatt of load following, and SECI will come up with six independent bids of 7,200, which is around 18,700 megawatts of tenders are expected. So at the back end, if I create the infrastructure, it is around 39,000 megawatt that is to be coming up. Plus, without a storage, these load following RTC and other bids are not possible. Reason behind that, we cannot have so much of intermittency coming from wind and solar. So we are very, very positive on this. 2 points also I want to make it in the last till date when I'm speaking, around 3910 megawatt of already RTC tenders, which we known as hybrid, is already there up and running. Out of 1400 megawatts already installed, and rest will be installed in this coming year. And I'm expecting a lot of projects which will go towards kind of, RTC kind of solution. This is one more thing I would like to add is one very important sector that is growing up, that is the CNI sector, where when I'm presently speaking, around 24 gigawatt is already installed. Now it is estimated that 12 gigawatt more will be installed for CNI customers. This is as per a research report, and this will be a very big, boost for the sector. The primarily it is being driven because everybody wants to have a renewable 100% power. And present dispensation, what we have from the discoms is they do not provide 100% renewable. They only provide to the extent of RP or little more than that. Few states have started giving the green power, but for example, Andhra is giving a 12, but that is not economical. So CNI with the customized CNI with RTC, 100% RTC, but since 100% RTC is not possible, so you will have solutions like 50% RTC in time block wise, and around 85 to 90% of PLF guaranteed. These kinds of contracts will now be in the market, and it will propel. Second is just to add, hydrogen still in nascent stage, but going forward when it's on the ground, even the discoms will not be able to provide the green power, because unless you want to produce a green hydrogen, which is not possible by taking discom power, it will be more of a CNI bilateral arrangements which bigger players will do with the hydrogen manufacturers. That is how I see the market moving on. I close my comments with this.
Based on your numbers, let's say about 15 gigawatt for the next financial year and about 20 to 25 gigawatts for the next couple of financial years would seem a reasonable outlook.
Yeah, agree to that.
Okay. Mr. Dutt, the same question to you. What is the kind of capacity additions we're looking at, and if you can hazard a guess as to what will the mix of the various technologies as part of it? Mr. Dutt, am I audible? Sir, you're on mute.
I think the points raised by Mr. Venkatraman were very pertinent, and I think it will take time actually. But if the demand increases, and that would be a uh, very good sort of a method of a of assessing the rate at which the demand is increasing, gives a good sort of pointer. And I think if the demand increases, then some of these things, both in terms of storage as well as in terms of generation, will be there. And the grid, I think, is sufficiently mature to handle this. And 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 with the say intervention and very close monitoring by the CEA, the current CEA, I think it will be a very good environment in which this will work. Yesterday's meeting also was attended not only by the CA but participated well. So I think as and when our capacities increase, our demand increase, the different aspects of stability in grid management will also increase, and therefore I think it's not that bad a scenario.
So thanks for your views. Mr. Chamunto, your views on this? Sir, yeah.
Hi. Yeah, thank you, Sabazachiji. Thank you, Solar Quarter, for giving me the opportunity. Yes, the next 3 years, out of which this year, I mean 2023, is a little challenge because of the several reasons I think Mr. Venkatapan has already told. One is this, that the module capacity in the solar I'm talking about. I mean the capacity we are building up, particularly in module, but we have to see the vertically integrations like in the solar cell, solar wafers, and then ingot and polysilicon. These are the challenge. But as on today, we have a 1.02 million metric ton of polysilicon capacity, which is equivalent to 400 gigawatt. And if you look into the present market as on today, I mean, very recent, man, 2 3 days market, that the polysilicon as well as solar cell and the module price has fallen drastically, more than 30%, right? So we face a challenge like last 3 quarters, I mean, quarter one, quarter two, and quarter three of 2022. And 23 will be something like in the renewable, maybe around 15 gigawatt, and 24 will be 20 plus, and 25 onwards will be a different numbers, in a sense like indigenously we are coming up with vertically integrations on the solar cell as well as ingot and the wafers and polysilicon. So I believe for by 2030, so will we achieve something like 250 gigawatt plus in solar, and wind wise there will be a shortfall of that, something like 140 or so. Will be very close to that numbers of 400 gigawatt plus, right? And as far as the Indian opportunity is concerned, I believe that we are ranking fourth, and globally, as on the market share, we are roughly around 6%, and it will be much improved, closer to 15% and above. Thank you.
The same question for Mr. Chauhan now. Mr. Chauhan, what are your perspectives on the capacity addition over the next 2 to 3 years?
Uh, s- so my perspective from the development side on how much the awarded capacity in the pipeline, which is advanced enough to be considered as under construction or going to under construction just this quarter, next quarter. I think the pipeline has not transitioned from development to the construction because of constraints of availability of modules under this ALM and BCD rules, and also the higher prices of modules in last 2 3 quarters has made the developers to basically think what should be the right timing, because the projects those are uh, in the advanced stage of developments, they were awarded almost like 2020 and 21, while the module prices were sub 20, and it is not making viable this situation to buy a module at 30 or 32. Okay, so I see 23 the capacity addition might be under 10 gigawatt. It would be very difficult for us to believe that in 23 we can close 10 gigawatt capacity. From 24 and 25 onwards, I see substantial capacity because all the projects are getting deferred to 24 and 25 because of this ALM and BCD. So there will be substantial chunk of projects. Those will be scheduled with extended COD or with some delayed penalties, or maybe some relaxation, the time extension being granted. So I see a lot of chunk is moving to 24. 24 we can test 15 or 17 something, I believe so. And then from there onwards, while module will be available in the domestic market because of the additions that is and those are happening with the module manufacturers on the cell side. So from 25 onwards, I see a good progress. Um, Maybe we can assume 23, 24, 25, around 40, 45 gigawatts we can add. And from there, it will be very, very different scenario because we possibly would have 100 gigawatt of manufacturing, and then we will have balance of 5 years to achieve go to 500 gigawatt. So that's my assessment for the market.
Sure, sir. That was very Mr. Yadav?
Uh, Thank you, first view, and good afternoon, everybody. Uh, Sorry, Sabya, I missed the last part you said. Can
Yeah,
you please?
basically your perspective on the capacity additions.
Yeah, so I fully agree with what Pradeep had recently highlighted that the year would be a slowdown for development of the RE projects, and particularly in solar, just because there are recent disruptions in solar supply chain. These are hugely affected every developers, not only restricted to the private developers, but to the PSUs as well. So if you take cognizance of the steps taken by government to mitigate them, so the government is also planning to extend SCOD timelines for all these projects. And in turn, if you look at the domestic module suppliers, so with the increase in the raw materials, so the prices of the domestic panels have also increased, which has led to the gap in the Chinese suppliers vis-a-vis the Indian suppliers, which is why the capacity which they have assumed that would have been tied up is not tied because of the variation in the prices. And certainly, government are taking necessary steps to mitigate all those things and to make Indian market comfortable for the players to go ahead. Recently, if you see, government has also launched the second PLI tranche for additions of solar manufacturing capacities, which in turn would help the domestic suppliers to enhance their capabilities and will also help the government in achieving the Make in India program. And if you see the last year, the in 2021, the solar installation was almost 10 gigawatts, but this year we see a little below that just because of the reasons highlighted by Pradeep, which are not suitable for developers. And the main reason for this is just because the conditions are not favorable for developers to execute the projects in the current scenario. If we wish to achieve the target of 500 gigawatts by 2030, then definitely these challenges needs to be addressed. And certainly, government is also taking necessary steps to mitigate them. So that's my view on the topic.
Sure. So it's very heartening to see that everyone is quite optimistic about the capacities which are going to be added. So my next question now will be that Mr. Venkatraman had shared a very interesting perspective that he believed that rather than going in, if I've understood him correct, that rather than going in for plain vanilla solar projects or wind projects, the focus both from the procurers and from the developer side will be for going for more complete solutions which will incorporate hybrid solutions as well as storage. So do the other members also share the same perspective? I could begin by asking Mr. Shambhuta, is that your perspective also, that increasingly the focus on both counterparties will be more towards going in for hybrid solutions and solutions where storage is integrated as part of the solution?
True, absolutely. Basically with the standalone systems, either in the solar or wind, so there is a limited of the, the with the PLF, the power load factors, and then these PLFs are heartening everybody, because in any power plant we should have a 24 by 7 a kind of a the power availability. So therefore, so wind and solar is the first options, which is the hybrid, but also is the partial storage. Now the thing is that what are the kind of the storage that will work now, right? So we know in the storage technology, there are very big technology, particularly one of the oldest technology, that the compressed airs, which doesn't work, but this mechanical side is that the pump hydro. So pump hydro is one of the better option, for the future, and this is a very old technology. And in India, there are a couple of installations are there, and I believe the couple of developers are coming in a big way, but the setup time, it will take more, between 2.5 years, but this will give a very unique solutions. There are other technologies, say for example the gravity technology as well. I mean, people are working, this is a new technology, but this is also a huge investment, and also you have to see that the how it is be utilized with the minimum operations and the maintenance, right? On the battery side, I think this is a very short term, and particularly on the lithium ion battery, but that doesn't cater for a long term solutions, right? So you have to have something like battery flow technology as well, which is also very good. So looking into this all this different technology scenario, right? Okay. uh, the RTC, the round the clock, the power is the ultimate solutions, but we have to have a kind of the mix of these three. The solar will be the cheapest, number one. Number two, wind are there, but as far as the even in the solar, I want to mean that the present situations in the utility scale, what we are doing in the ground mounted, but lot of things are coming like with the CNI sector, which is very very obvious choice, and in the CNI sectors, in fact, the main motive is that you can reduce your tariff cost by 50%, right? There are other areas, say for example, the floating solar, which are coming, is a very nascent stage, but I believe there is a huge possibility that will, I mean, in terms of the improvement, in a sense, like as far as the operations is concerned, that we get a better generation because of the low operating temperature in the reservoirs. But we had done a lot of survey. I mean, we means the India has got a lot of survey. The water reservoir, what we have, something like if we can utilize 25 to 30% of that, it will be an excess of 400 gigawatt of installation. I mean, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and a lot of other states has got a lot of reservoirs, which if we can utilize. And on the wind side, so far we are concentrating on the onshore, but you have to look into the offshore, how the PLF will be increased, maybe 65% of that, right? So those are the area. Yes, we know the couple of tenders are coming, and there will be a challenge, but definitely India is always working on the engineering, how to get the best value in terms of the LCOE, right? So in the solar, wind, and as well as in the storage systems, I believe there is a lot of engineering on the technology side. Innovations are coming, and as we see that the last 12 years, how the tariff in the solar has reduced from 18 rupees to 2.5. We have gone down to 2 rupees as well, but it is stabilized now with the 2.5 rupees, right? In the similar way, in the storage sides, I think, though hydrogen is a very very in the nascent stage, but one of the things is that green hydrogen is our ultimate aim, and with the renewable, that will take a long time, maybe around 2030 or so, right? But with the cost effective solutions, right? So this is my overall overview. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your insights.
I could add a little bit on that if you like. So I think, you look at where India is positioned in the world. People have remarked that India is fourth in terms of wind, fourth in terms of solar, but India is actually third in terms of electricity consumption. So just to kind of keep pace, hopefully we'll see India third in solar and third in wind soon. And the other interesting thing on this comment on storage is we're just getting to the point now where if we install a little bit more solar, the coal plants are going to get to the point where they're going to be hitting their minimums on a more regular basis during the day. So right now, coal plants hit their minimum at night at 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., not during the day. But that will soon change when we get to 120, 150 gigawatts of solar. So yeah, we're going to have to see more and more storage. I think part of that will be RTC, part of that will be peak power tenders. Um, Ideally, we'll see merchant as well. I know there's a handful of renewable developers that have looked at solar um, as a merchant, and potentially as storage costs continue to fall, there'll be potential for storage on a merchant basis as well. You look at how tight power was this April, and it's going to be people seem to have very short memories, but we're going to be short power again in India in this April. And then when the power prices go up and there's lots of shortages, hopefully that will be a driver to start installing solar and storage at a faster pace.
I believe Mr. Majumdar is off air. We'll just wait for a moment.
So I think if there is issue, Pradeep ji, I think you can carry on with the kind of a, interim moderator as well, right?
Okay, thank you. So my
Yeah, now I'm back. I think
oh, thank you.
Okay, okay,
the
great,
host
great.
has hidden me. I
Please
mean,
carry on.
for some reason, I was
Continue.
not able to activate any of the buttons. It said that the host has hidden you from the stage. I don't know. Seems to be some network.
Yeah, we can hear you, Mr. Majumdar.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, okay. So basically, wanted to hear from Mr. Chauhan and Mr. Yadav their views also on maybe Mr. Yadav will take first about how he sees. I mean, does he agree with the contention that there'll be more solutions based approach and in storage? I mean, how is it going to pan out? Is it batteries or is it going to be pumped hydro? Is it going to be a mix of both and some new technologies that Mrs. Samanto talked about? So, Mr. Yadav, if I can have your perspective on this.
Yeah, sure. So, Gautam sir rightly highlighted that plain solar would be difficult to achieve the RTC and the firm flow of power, which is the current need of the customers. And currently, the market is maturing from plain solar to mixed RE projects. As now, and the current scenario, RE is economically viable, and the plan is to replace non-RE consumptions. So, currently initially start of the mixed tenders which influenced hybrid tenders into the industry, which was not well accepted by the developers and the discoms, because two technologies clubbed in a project was not initially accepted by discoms. But within a couple of tenders, discoms were ready to offtake those powers, and then in turn we have seen a good response of hybrid tenders as well. And nowadays we would be seeing not particularly plain solar bids into the market, but there would be demand based bids, or in which it would be addition of battery storage, pump storage, and mix of solar and wind. The reason being is customers today needs a firm dispatchable and RTC power, which in turn cannot be achieved directly from plain solar projects. So the intention from the discoms and from the bidding agencies is to get a mix of the projects, which includes demand-based bids, which could be of peak power in nature or RTC in nature. That being said, these type of tenders would not be restricted to utility scale projects, and the customers would not be restricted to utility scale only. We have recently seen the CNI sector booming up as well. So they are also in need of large capacities. Earlier, we could have seen only 30, 40 megawatts of projects being accepted by the CNI industries. But recently, we have seen 100, 150, 300 kind of megawatts of projects have been accepted well enough by the private entities as well. And if uh, uh, if we are in our target to achieve 500 gigawatts, then surely we have to adapt with the customer's needs. So currently, customer needs and firm dispatchable power, which can be totally sourced by the RTC projects, and this has to be economically viable, and we have to replace the consumption from non-RE dependence. And as I see with the pace of projects being developed, the tenders being issued by government agencies, and the demands from the CNI sectors, India is all set to be a big player in green energy generation, and the aspiration would not only to attain or to meet the energy requirements in India, but to start supplying power to neighboring states as well. And the main aim here would be to get certain subsidies and certain help from the government, which could be in part of incentives or in terms of extensions in completing the projects. Thank you. That's
Very heartening to see that you believe that not only India can produce enough for our own needs, but that we can actually produce renewable energy for our neighbors' needs also. That's quite interesting takeaway. And I would like to ask the same question to Mr. Chauhan. How does he see the landscape in terms of the solutions, whether it is as optimistic as any of the other panelists here?
So, Mr. Majumdar, I think after a certain point of time, maybe 1 year, 2 year, I don't see any plain vanilla auctions on a large scale coming purely on solar. It There's a significant transition that we have seen over last 1.5 years on the auction side. And there are a lot of hybrid auctions are coming out, and discoms are definitely under pressure to contract for more stable power curve. Um, Otherwise, they'll be having capacity having contracted capacity having idle on the thermal side. They'll have to pay capacity charges for only for asking them to back down in the peak solar generation hour. So it's not making very good sense for them anymore. So if we start transition on a very high pace right now immediately, I think that idea is also not very good, because the cost on the battery storage side is not as exciting as you can add capacity on the solar and wind side. So there has to be a very smooth and slow ramp up. So that needs some policy level intervention. Maybe going forward, the auction should come out with a minimum level of storage for let's say 5% or 10% of the capacity must be having battery storage in all the solar and wind tenders, and that will create a demand and ecosystem for the manufacturers to come out with the battery storage solutions or any other storage solutions. Um, we have seen a couple of auctions on the storage side, or in the even the RTC tenders and peak power tenders. So the tariffs are also not in the even closed range in the any of the discoms APPC. We have seen a couple of tenders that has happened. So there has to be um, some policy intervention from MNRE to look into a transition right away, but not at a very high ramp up stage. While we also are yet to explore cross-border kind of renewable energy um, projects happening. But yes, there of course there is a program, one sun one grid is something that's being shaped up around that concept. Maybe in the current geopolitical scenario, walking at that high level may have its own challenges. But yes, of course, neighboring countries, you can definitely. There are already some links with Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan, so you can do power transfers both ways. Right now we are buying power from Bhutan and Nepal. We can add capacities in solar and wind, and then we can sell them back. Similarly, Bangladesh is in dire need of energy, and they don't have sufficient land mass or even the wind potentials. So I think Bangladesh can be a very good beneficiary if we bring out similar programs for cross-border sales. Similarly, already some power transmission happening in the thermal side, so we can look into it. So it's a good idea for looking into not only generating for your own needs, but can look for your neighbors as well, because smaller countries will not have that much of liquidity and the potential in those countries to achieve that kind of scale and bring so much of competitiveness to bring the tariff that we are able to see here in India. We have been able to demonstrate. So going forward, I think the new program should be kind of a mix of wind, solar, and battery storage to some extent.
So my next question really is on the policy environment. And my question is, how do our panelists see the policy? I mean, are the policies encouraging enough? Are the policies stable enough uh, encouraging developers to take a long-term perspective? And if not, what are the wish list? I mean, what are the additional things that our esteemed panelists want that the government should include to ensure that energy transition to take place in a seamless way? I begin my by directing this question to Mr. Dutt and come to the others. So where do you see the policies right now, and what are your wish list in terms of where we want to be? Mr. Dutt, you are there?
Yeah, yeah. So I think as far as the policy is concerned, or the policy aspects are concerned, I think the very fact that we are, the government is taking a very broad side view, and that is preparing for today as well as for tomorrow. And yesterday's green solar deliberation, or the clearance of the green solar policy, green hydrogen policy, demonstrates that. The introduction of greater intervention by the CA also makes it very um, important contribution, that is generation, transmission, and utilization, all these aspects. But where I think incentives are supposed to be given, there certain policies are required. And those policies would mean that where we incentivize the production of not only RE, but also the different ways of utilization. Say, for example, we've had the solar rooftop given um, a direction that all right, so much of power will be generated by the solar rooftop. That has not completed. But why it has not? Rooftop actually, in India, especially mega cities or even large cities, which have pretty large living areas, the roof is unutilized at many places, or it is not being properly utilized. And I think the utilization is far more important to make rooftop a very profitable method, both of generation. I mean, both for uh, the the panels manufacturer and of the people who live within the colonies. The roof is not properly designed. there should be certain amount of effort of the builders and the manufacturers of rooftop uh, panels, and that should generate that should make the roofs extremely um, utilizable for the solar energy. That way, straight away, we have a huge amount of new utilization of the solar panels, which we must do. And this is 24 hours. Actually, with that, storage also comes, and can storage uh, be available at each uh, building or a conglomeration of buildings, so that this the during the day period or during the period when the energy is generated, energy surplus energy can be stored and utilized. Now, similarly, I think we should uh, create demand, and that perhaps would be not just Ministry of MNRE and Power, but also other ministries like Industry and Commerce, where certain uh, positive steps of are taken, so that the uh, energy generators are given certain incentives, and that would mean that the benefit will be shared by the consumers and the generators, and the government will would uh, uh, would be directing those benefits. And there can be many such instruments which can be covered by the policies, and the policies could be that yes, any if any township, and mind you, the progress of India is shown by urbanization. A very large amount of investments are done for the urban areas. Now, can incentives be given that those urban areas have we have a not only ability but also use of the renewable energy, and the land which is being taken for development of such cities, especially the smart cities, which should be properly used so that the solar energy is generated. We don't have to go very far away. In Dubai, they have made these kind of Dubai, Abu Dhabi. They have made these kind of cities where entire utilization of energy is from solar energy, and we can see those, and we can develop similar things, and an incentive given to the builders that if you plan it out like this, 100% of solar energy can be utilized like this. Now that we are thinking of uh, proper green hydrogen and green ammonia, and their uh, say production and evacuation, there are certain things which will happen through government's policy directives, and MNRE and perhaps shipping and transport ministry will have to jointly sort of incentivize and through development of policies which will enable India not only to generate green hydrogen and green ammonia, but also to transport them to the demand centers. So there could be many such things, and who better than the developers themselves to give these ideas, and perhaps they should partner sort of themselves and not work in silos, and come out with the projects which will show the combined use of generation, transmission, and distribution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your perspective. And may I now flip the question to Mr. Venkat for his views?
Yeah.
What policy is wish list?
So I'm so happy that I'm presently in working with such government officials or policy makers. Yeah, I've not seen in my entire career the way they are so proactive and helping the sector to grow. I'll just list out something which they have done in last 1 or 2 years. First is the LPS rule, which Mr. Dutt had said. This has helped the whole developer industry like anything. Now I do not run after anyone. I get my money in time, they are penalized, their powers are cut, and this is done without any manual intervention. I don't even need to shoot any letter. That this the way the CA and the ministry has done. Hats off to them, the way they have solved this perennial problem which was plaguing the industry. I'm so happy that they have resolved this issue of getting the payments. Now a developer will always put a project and will get the money from the discoms. Very happy to be a part of this. Second is they have given a green open access and the hydrogen policy with a banking on the central. And this I've never heard of because banking was always at state. The government is intervening and making facilities at the central level so that when the hydrogen comes, they will have a banking facilities across India to help this RTC power kind of thing, and they're very agile in putting this across this. Now, there's another yesterday that came is the two more bills that I would like to refer is one is EC conversion bill, which was amended and made it mandatory for all industries, not only to up till RPO, but also beyond that to be, conversant of, having the green power. So this will propel the green power requirement mainfold in the country. Then there's another bill, net zero bill. The beauty of this bill key, it is drilling down at from the central level to state level and even city level to have net zero, which is one of the landmark bills I would suggest, which will even propel the RE industry. Then yesterday they have published one electricity amendment rules 2020. The industry was not able to sign PPAs because the discoms were choosing with higher tariff, lower tariff. Now they have made a central pool wherein they will only have one tariff, so discoms will have not any say ki I'll not buy this power, that power. They will buy it from pool. So they have again solved a very big problem, and if this is implemented, I think so the developers will be at peace, because the biggest problem today here is ki I get a tender, I get a tariff, but I don't get a PPA. Because of the choosing nature of the discom, that has also been solved. So many things happen so fast in India, I've never observed. I'm very happy the way the government is helping the sector. Now, wish list, there can be many, because I'm being a developer, I can always be asking for many things. But one thing is ki they have recently tightened the DSM regulation without having a proper infrastructure adults wind scheduling, which is really hitting us hard. I used to be around 0.1% to 0.5% in solar and around 0.5 to 2% in wind. Now it has shot up to 4 to 8% in wind and beyond 2 to 3% in solar. So this is actually hitting my revenue. So if some help can be given from the government side, because it's commercially impacting us, my IRRs and my tariffs. So in short, I'll end it up because I'll have a lot of long list, but other panelists are also there. So that's my views from my side. I'm very extremely happy with the
Thank you.
government.
Thank you. And Mr. Venkat, it's really very heartening to hear that you think that, the government is going the extra mile to promote, absorption of, green power, of growth and absorption of green power in the country. Mr. Chauhan, you also share the same views, or you have a different perspective on, where the policy in environment is headed?
So I share the views with Mr. Venkatraman. Yes, however, I wish little more. As we have seen that as far as policy framework uh, is going in very recent times is exciting. So we have uh, seen very elaborative and very descriptive policies. The only thing that as a developer, I would wish for is a very smooth implementation by the agencies, so that we do not end up having scenarios like these. BCD custom duties and all these barriers, they have spillover effect actually. The policy should be helping the industry actually, and that's the motive behind forming those policies. And we definitely believe policy, as far as policy framework is, it's going in the right direction, and it's definitely is aiming for the targets that have been fixed, and it's very exciting that the government is actually now taking feedbacks while framing policies from the industry bodies. So only thing is that if the policies are implemented in states and in central agencies among different agencies smoothly, then we will have much better path to accelerate for achieving these targets. Definitely.
Mr. Yadav, your views on this?
Uh, I hope the most of the things are covered by Venkatramana and Mr. Pradeep, and I completely concur with what they have said. And certainly, government is working very aggressively to address the issues raised by the developers, which is not only restricted to the incentives but also the worries which developers have had raised. So recently, the pooling of tariff, which was done, that would be a great help to developers. So we, so several developers are a victim of the projects which have not been tied up and they are lying stranded. So this will really help in clearing the backlog of projects which has been lying there, which have been tendered, which LOA has been issued, but the capacities are not tied up because discoms are choosy and they're not willing to buy power at a certain tariff. But given a pool tariff, then it would be a really a great help to developers so that the projects are formed up and the projects which are lying in the implementation stage can further move on to execution stage. And for this, certainly we think that the current solar disruptions are momentary, and there would be steps, and there would be in coming future we'll see that the capacities are adding up and the pace is increased for the installations. And recently, the main issue that our developers we see as a view is the solar industry had come to standstill in Rajasthan. So certain issues like the GIB issue, in which if you look at the higher radiation zones of Rajasthan, so particularly 3/4 IST substations, where development is halted not only for developers but for the ISTS licenses which are unable to construct the ISTS substations, which in turn is affecting the RE industries a great deal. So if those things can be resolved, then definitely the installations will also be adding up. So certainly the steps have been taken. So earlier there were applications lying in the committee and those are not cleared. So just taking the cognizance that the committee is not consisted of the technical people, so two more people are added into the committee so that clearing of the applications would be done. So that's a good step that taken by the government, and definitely, if this GIB issue is resolved, then it would really help in development of ISS infrastructure, which will help to establish new projects coming up. And there are certain steps being taken by Navy as well for development of onshore wind or offshore wind projects as well. So, in totality, yeah, it's a great scenario in which the current government is actually helping out developers to add on the capacities, and not only secretaries but honorable minister as well is keen to engage with the developers to list out the issues and queries and how quickly to resolve them. Not only related to MNRE or MOP, but definitely with the other ministries as well. So, with this, I close my remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Yadav. Mr. Shamoto, your perspective on this?
Yes, what I want to say, for any project that what we are doing, we have to see that it is sustainable. In a sense, like I should see that the environment, the ecosystem is without any kind of adverse effect. So what I mean that if any PPA is signed, so the SECI or the government agency should be in a position, first of all, that how you will give a plan how you want to dismantle, the power plant after 25 years. And next thing is that, how we want to reuse. Say, for example, it is a solar, wind, and with the battery. So it's a RTC plant, right? In the solar plant, the first of all, what are the components that you use it, and how you recycle those things. Similar things in, I'll come back in the detail on that. Similar things in the wind. After dismantling, whether you can use it or you can refurbish the certain components, right? Similar things in the storage. Say, for example, if it is a battery storage, so how you are ensuring that you have a recycling the facility, because there are certain elements which are very hazardous to the environment. So coming back to the solars, I mean, there are different technologies. One of the technologies is the silicon, which is about more than 90% in the use. And silicon is a material that it can be recycled as well. Even the all the components, including the outer this thing structures, the aluminum channel, then the glass, and then all the silicon metals, then the copper, the ribbon, and other things. There is a recycling method and which can be recovered, and there should be a complete plan, and also it can be reused as well. Right? Okay. Similar thing in case of the wind. So all the structures and whatever you have your the components, including the blade, how you can refurbish it and reuse it, for the future. So in totality, what I want to say that there will be a mechanisms where the circular economy will be coming in picture, number one. Number two, for any particular solar power plant, there should be the best practices, in a sense, like how we see that it can have a, the better the CUF and the PR. So what do I mean? That the module should be bifacial module, number one. Number two, it should be use a tracker. Number three, it should use a robotic cleaning system rather than the water, that we should save the mother earth. So like that, I mean, there should be a kind of the whole mechanisms of this about of the utility scale. But similarly, we have got a 200 smart cities, particularly in a rooftop applications, and I believe that we are not utilizing the only not only the roof but also the facade, and where we can utilize our facade in a better way. So what I mean that in the new cities, wherever the government is giving, or the municipal corporations, they can give in a permissions, so there should be at least a use like the 15 to 20% of the full powers, from the solar. uh, so like that, I mean, something has to be a mandatory for the future. And also, another thing is that in future, say, for example, any component which is particularly either manufactured from the green energy, should have a better tariff, in a sense, like better pricing. So for example, when we go for any kind of vegetables, particularly, or maybe, some of the food items is which is grown from the organic, so it's get a better pricing, something like that. So the idea is that, to have a less carbon footprint, and we should encourage the green energy for a better tariff on that. Thank you.
So I will now hand it back to Sakshi. This will be a good time for some question and answers from the audience, right? Sakshi, on mute.
Thank you so much, dear panelist, and Mr. Majumdar, for being an excellent moderator at this webinar. We will now be proceeding to the question and answer round. I'll be presenting the questions on screen, and all panelists are open to answering the questions. Mr. Majumdar, whom do you think is the right person to answer this
Anyone,
question?
I think any one of the panelists, who feel comfortable answering. Although my own perspective is that in the near future, I mean, at least in the next couple of years, residential will not be a very major. In fact, the way I see in absolute numbers of absolute, if you have to just aggregate the capacities, grid connected projects, large scale grid connected projects will be the biggest share, followed by the ground mounted CNI projects of, let's say, 50 to 500 megawatt kind of sizes. I mean, of course, when I talk about 500 megawatt CNI project, it would mean a park which is allocated to several CNI customers, and this will be followed by rooftop projects for industrial and commercial segment. Residential solar, in spite of the immense potential and the fact that it will be uh, consuming the power where it is generated itself, will, I'm afraid, take a much longer period of time, because very challenges including financials, legal issues, shading issues. This is a much more complex segment, and I think, notwithstanding the potential, perhaps it will take much slower to develop compared to the other segments. I would leave it open to the other panelists if they have any different perspective on this. Mr.
I think I would agree with what Mr. Majumdar said, but if you take rooftop as also somewhat residential, because basically it provides to all conglomeration to the residents, and so in that case the it's a very big potential. If you recall, right in the beginning, when the government said that, well, we will by 2022 add 100 gigawatts of solar power, a big chunk of that was put in for the rooftop, and very aptly, because India has a larger growing urban population, and urban population deserves better energy supplements or energy availability. And what better than rooftop? Now, here I think it is necessary that the builders and the managers of those urban properties and the developers who are involved in the rooftop work together. And in this, I would say, in a very crude example, but it is an example. You see, Indian food has a compulsory inclusion of masalas, but that doesn't stop Mahashiyadi Hatti, the premier masala making organization, to keep on advertising the use of masala. And you find that every time in the TV, whatever channel you open, you have this masala making organization talking about Indian masalas. Now, if masalas are very important ingredients in Indian food, energy is very important ingredient in Indian lifestyle. And this has to be done. We have to use the entire solar energy availability in the residential complexes. And these residential complexes also mean factories, office spaces, as well as educational spaces. Every such organization has roof, and every roof deserves to have a rooftop. And if you go to a country, I mean, Israel does not energy short country, but every roof has a rooftop, and therefore it is necessary. And Indian food also requires heating and cooking every day for at least 2 times or maybe 3 times. And what better than having hot water available? So this itself would create a huge demand in India, and the residential complexes or the complexes of offices or the school. or the colleges and all that would have a proper utilization of this solar energy. So I think that is one sector which has to be done. I had suggested to Mr. Suresh Prabhu when he was minister for railways that every railway wagon has a potential of generation of energy, and I have written a paper suggesting that, and he straight away acknowledged that possibility, and later on the Ministry of Railways also confirmed to me that they have used so much of generation capacities on the rooftop of each of these wagons. So if railways can do it, I think stationary sort of areas of smart cities, or the present cities and the future cities, all should be able to take on the um, possibility of generation of solar power. Thank you.
Yeah, I can I add something on this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
sir, thank you for guiding us. So I'm very positive on this rooftop side because in the mission 40 gigawatts are already allocated. But the issue here plaguing is the discoms play a spoil sport here because of the policies do not let the consumers or the residential consumers put this. But my wish list is that someday India, all Indians should not pay a single rupee on energy, and they should generate their own energy in the houses and net export to the grid. And by doing this, we will save millions of rupees in terms of oil exports that we are putting. Why I'm saying that going forward, EV will come in a long way, and we can charge our EV vehicles free of charge. We have so much of, we are near the equator, so much of sun, so much of radiation. We should encash this opportunity. Only thing is ki the government and the discoms and the public, I think so some policy intervention is required. See, this government has done something very unique. They have opened a portal also. Now they're giving directly the subsidies, but a lot needs to be done in the ground. And this will be a great advantage to the citizens of this country if this is implemented and if they become net zero in terms of paying their electricity charges. So I'm very positive. Some intervention is required and this can go ahead.
Shall we switch to the next question? Mr. Majumdar, whom do you think will be the right person to answer this question?
Mr. Shamanto, would you be willing to take this question?
This one about R&D.
Yes. And on storage?
Yes, process reaching to the target. IES is working on increasing the storage economically and the view of that. Yes, I think as far as R&D is concerned, I mean, in each sectors, I mean, I'm talking something like, first of all, on the solar side, and basically, it is not only silicon, but all of the other materials as well, right? So, I'll give you a brief on that. I mean, as far as the silicon is concerned, this is 18.3%, and as an element, the silicon is available. But how to use the silicon in a different metallurgical to polysilicon, from polysilicon to ingot? I mean, this is the conventional way that we are getting today. But there are a lot of research going on, right, directly from the polysilicon to the to the wafers, and then the cell and the module, in a sense, like there won't be any ingot in between. So this will is not only save the polysilicon uses, but also the lot of energy, because silicon is melting in a very, very high temperature, right? So a lot of research is going on in all the value chain. I mean, obviously, from the wafers to the cell level, as you know that the today one of the technologies like the N-type material. I mean, I'm talking about from the P-type is going off maybe in a couple of years, and then we are going to the N-type. So in the N-type material, particularly in the top cone as well as HGT, though heterojunctions is a very one of the oldest technology. But what happens in the today's scenario, we have seen that the substrate size, in the wafer size, has been increased substantially. In a sense, like earlier, when I started 30 years back, we used to have a 3-inch wafer, 4-inch wafer, and then today we are now M10 wafer 182 millimeters, and also the G12 or M12, I mean like 210. So whatever it means, not only the substrate has been increased, I mean there is a lot of research going on, and how to reduce the wafer's thickness as well. So, earlier I can remember I used to have a 500 micron, and today it is 160 microns. I mean something like one third. And so in all the verticals, I mean there are several researchers going on, and the first objective is that how to get a maximum power output from the same footprint, means per square meters, right? So earlier I can tell you, 3-4 years back, when the modules, which is only 16 to 17%, that means per square meter we used to get 160 watt, and today with the park we are getting 210 watt, per square meter. And way forward with the top cone and the HGT, we'll be getting something like 230 to 240 watt per square meters. So it's not only that, I mean there are a lot of other research are going on. Say for example, how to reduce the degradations on the year on or on year on basis. What I want to mean that on not only on the first year, but also on the subsequent year up to 25 years. If we say the life of the upper module, but it's not like that. It will be lasting 30 years as well. So what I mean, like, so earlier with the poly modules we used to have a 80% power output after 25 years, but with the park we are getting something around 85% to 87%, depending on the glass modules what we use. But way forward with the N-type materials, particularly on the top one and the HGT, and we'll be getting above 90%, 90 to 92% power output at the end of 25 years. So what I want to mean, in all materials we are working, some of the materials, say for example, we used to use like EVA, ethyl phenylene acetate. Now we are using a POE poly polyolefin. So what does it do actually? For bifacial modules, this will be acting as a not only as a kind of a good adhesive, but also with the temperature cycling, with the temperature, and this will be having a better in transmittivity and the longer lifetime and the low degradations. So in all the verticals, all the different materials, I mean very difficult to say right across within a couple of minutes, right? So in the storage sides also, I mean like say lithium ion is one of the things like that. It gives a high power density. So earlier we had alkaline batteries, where we have a the low power density, and also there was a thing is that number of cycles that you operate, that also it's very, very important, that in the lithium ion you can use go up to 8,000 to 10,000, the charging and the discharging size cycle, as well as the depth of the discharge. I mean how much we can use out of that one. So in all aspect, I mean there are several parameters, that to have the optimum output, I mean it is coming. So I'm sure that by 2030 or so, in solar I can tell you, frankly, that per square meter will be generating about 300 watt, I think, modules. And it's not only that, in the bifacial and with other configurations it will be reaching 350 watt. I mean, so the kind of things like materials is not only a silicon materials, there is a materials is a tandem materials on the top of silicon. So there will be a kind of another sandwich layers, so which will enhance your power output. So in all aspect, I mean, people are working, as I told you earlier, in the wind side also, to have the better things, in the offshore project, like the PLF, they will increase. So there is a, every years, I mean, there are a lot of research are going on. So and the main objective is that, how it will be sustainable for not only 25 years, or it may be 30 years. So the time is very short. I want to discuss something about the different accelerated process, in a sense, like, how do you judge that, this will be have a lesser degradations, I mean, through the different cycle. So in the lab, there is a different kind of things. I don't know if I mind that 61265 IEC is a test, is a one time test. There are several tests. It's called the three times test, is a threshold test, so uh, and it is everywhere. I think there are different research lab, R&D, and all the, even the manufacturing, facilities, they are working on the to have the, better technological advantage, with the kind of a, things, I'll give finally one example. Today photovoltaic, what we are thinking today, and when we have read in our, school, that how the photosynthesis, the same things, will work with the photovoltaic. I mean, in the photosynthesis there is a energy storage as well, but this energy storage means where we need the sun, and there is a water, and only the efficiency is 0.5%. But in our in a solar systems, the our efficiency is much higher. So we'll discuss, some other time, about the R&D activities is going on around the globe.
Thank you so much for answering that question. I believe we are very short on time, so we'll take one more question, and we also have a very interesting poll coming up for our attendees. Uh, Meanwhile, who do you think, Mr. Majumdar, would be the right person to answer this?
I think Mr. Dutt could attempt this, or
Yeah, can I take this in the battery storage
sure,
system? Can I take
sure,
this?
sure, sure.
Yeah, so essentially, if I understand the question, is talking about BMS, the battery management system, which is used in the battery storage. If that's correct, then in this will be used in battery storage. But the question says will be used in solar or ESS people in near future. BMS will be used primarily in battery storage system. This will be required to store energies for standalone battery system or other, because this is one of the critical software that is used to do the management of the energy in the battery management system, not directly in solar. In solar plants, what best we can do, we can put the battery management system along with solar to store any power which is beyond the PPA or beyond the capacity allowed, and then reuse it. And in the combination of that, we can use this BMS system.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. We have a very interesting poll. If you could answer that poll in here, it's for all the attendees and the speakers as well.
If you ask me, I think so. I would like to have a session on, the issue that is bothering the sector, that is KLLM and the uh, duties structure, because this I feel so it is the biggest, stumbling block for making the renewable path go ahead. That's my view. Others can have share that.
Definitely, we'll take a note of that, sir. All right. While we are voting, I would like to give my closing remarks. It was great having all the panelists and Mr. Majumdar, and for superbly managing the session. We also would like to extend our gratitude to everyone for investing their valuable time and support for the event. We hope that the key takeaways from the session will be instrumental in paving the way for sustainability further. We promise to be back with many more exciting sessions. Thank you and good evening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sakshi, and thanks to all my esteemed panelists and everyone in the audience for being so attentive.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sakshi.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Damayanti.
everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you, first week team and panelists and Mr. Majumdar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.